Alright, and welcome to Fan Booking the G1 Tournament for 2016, NJPW's G1 Grand Prix Tournament. Okay, so what is the idea behind this? Well, normally I just do re-booking things. The whole fantasy booking, it's stuff that's from the past, from when I was still watching pro wrestling on a regular basis. This time, since I have started watching NJPW for almost a year now, actually, on a regular basis. It rekindled my interest in pro wrestling, actually, after not watching regularly for about 10, 12 years, 12, 13 years. Since about 2002 was when I gave up on WWE, and after that it was just occasionally I'd watch like a CZW or Ring of Honor or PWG or Chikara. I'd get the bug and watch a few things online or whatever, and then that would be it. For a while, I'd have my fill, and then that would be it. But watching the last year's 2015's G1 tournament rekindled my interest and love of pro wrestling. So, this is what I'd like to see them do, as well as some fantasy booking. That's what the whole idea here is. So mainly the thing that I would like to see them do in real life, all fantasy stuff aside, the two things is I feel that with their alliances they've built up, and if they could continue doing that, I would love to see them continue building up more alliances with other American indies, with like AAA in Mexico, other Japanese companies, other European companies, and all over the world, and really make it to where they could go toe-to-toe with WWE by getting in touch with the companies that are in those markets, the local promotions all over the world, and building up all kinds of relationships, essentially recreating the NWA. Which I think that, individually they have no chance against WWE, but all of them working together, more than a chance, I think. So I'd love to see them continue doing that and building on what they've already established. They need an English-speaking announce team, a commentary team, full-time English-speaking commentary team. Do some things that others don't do. Have a female commentator, full-time female English-speaking commentator. Might not be easy to find someone who could do it. It might take some time to, have an English-speaking team get their shit together. But once established and working well, doing what they need to do, it would help them crack the American market, which is a primary market, but as well as Europe, and because English is kind of becoming the common language of the world. I mean, it's so widespread in its use now. So I'd say for just on a permanent basis, an English-speaking commentary team, and then for big shows, Spanish as well. Possibly even say, I don't know. I mean, Spanish and English together, that would give you two of your biggest pro wrestling audiences right there. The Lucha and American audiences, as well as a lot of Europe and the rest of the world. Those two alone, it would be expensive to do for the bigger shows, but it would be worth it, I think. But even if you don't go with the Spanish announce team, an English-speaking commentary announce team, permanent edition, I think is vital. I think they really need that to move forward and keep pushing into the American market. Which is the ultimate goal of my fantasy booking, is to kind of crack the American market wide open, using the G1 tournament as the, like a flagship thing that's, You don't want to do it on something like a WrestleMania. You need something that lasts over time. If you're going to crack a new market, you can't do it with just one thing. You really need something over a course of time, and the G1 tournament is a couple of months. It's gotten that big. So that's why I would want to do it with a tournament instead of waiting till Wrestle Kingdom to try and do it. Okay, so those are two major things. The third thing that I'd love to see them do is go bigger. Now, I think the most they've ever had is like 22 people in the tournament or something like that. I would like to see them go up to 24. Now, this is entirely because they lost those guys and took that hit to the heavyweight division by having an even bigger G1 tournament than they've ever had before. They show that they know the strength in the face of adversity, standing strong, the warrior spirit. We are not going to allow WWE to fuck us over. We are going to come at you harder, better, and stronger than ever. So that's kind of what I'd like to see them do, and overall my goal for the G1 tournament portion of this fantasy booking. Now, before we get to that, Naito, I would keep the belt on Naito for a very good reason. He needs to keep it for a while. You can't give it to him and then take it right off of him. He needs to hold it for a while, otherwise he'll look weak. The match he had against Ishii, excellent match. He needs to have another match against Okada and beat him. And that would be what I would do going into, and they've already kind of set this up, so maybe I'm just reading their minds a little bit here, hopefully. But he needs to beat Okada without interference. Okay, there was interference in the Ishii match. That's what made it so good, was that there was some interference, but ultimately Naito ended up winning on his own. You know, he would not fucking stay down. He kept kicking out. That is what made it work. Now, he's kind of got this quasi-heel face, bad boy, James Dean, rebel without a cause thing going on now. I think they need to kind of settle on, is he going, you know, the fans are getting into it. They need to settle on what he's going to be doing. You know, just, the fans don't want him to be a heel. So there's no point to continue with some of the stupider stuff that gets them pissed off. You know, a little bit here and there, some of the rebellious behavior, spitting on people, the attitude, you know, but doing things like cheating, that's not helping. You know, it's the attitude, it's, you know, the whole you can't tell me what to do thing. That's what's appealing to people. And, you know, I just, they need to tone down the cheating stuff. That's the problem with Los Ingobernables, is you've got Naito, who is becoming a true force. I mean, he is, you know, over the last almost year since the G1 tournament, I've been able to watch him develop, which has been one hell of an, you know, thing to watch. It's been really interesting. But the additions of Los Ingobernables has given him buddies, but it doesn't really work. I mean, you've got Evil, who isn't very evil. You've got Bushi, who is okay, but again, there's not a whole lot to him, and Sonata so far has been just kind of, he's there. So I would be using the G1 tournament with Evil and Sonata to kind of repackage them, well, not repackage, but tweak them. Bushi, I would have working with Naito in some feud stuff that I'm going to get to here in a minute. Kind of trying to segue into that here pretty quick, actually. So, I don't want Naito in the tournament itself. That's a major thing for me, is that I don't understand why you would have a champ in the tournament when the main prize of the tournament is a shot at the title. you know, I guess the way it's supposed to work is if the champ should win the tournament, which you know isn't going to happen, but if it should, he gets to choose his opponent. The problem with that is that, you know, it's for a title shot at Wrestle Kingdom, which is their big show, so you can't have some chicken shit heel type of match take place there. And that's not really how Naito has been presenting himself anyway, so it wouldn't work in that regard. I mean, it's really a no-win scenario for the champion to win the tournament, because, I mean, what do? I mean, you don't want to look like a pussy, so you can't choose an opponent who's weak, but at the same time, you don't want to lose your championship, so you don't want to choose somebody who's likely to beat you, or possibly can beat you. So it's a no-win scenario to win the tournament for the champ. It makes no sense to do it. But at the same time, of course, we don't want Naito just on the sidelines the entire tournament. So we need him feuding with someone, but who? All the other heavyweights are going to be occupied with the tournament. Well, that's where we turn to some of these forays out in these new relationships we would be forging with other companies. In this case, I've did a little bit of looking around. Who could we bring in? I thought of some of the other Ring of Honor people, and it's like, nah, that doesn't quite have the impact I would want for the American, you know, since our goal is to crack the American market. Who would really make that successful? And then it dawned on me. I looked at House of Hardcore, Tommy Dreamer's promotion, Rob Van Dam, Sabu, Rhino. Okay. Huge name recognition for Rob Van Dam. Strong name recognition for Sabu in America and Japan. Van Dam too, of course, but Sabu, you know, really came into his own in Japan, so they're going to have more of, you know, I'd want to say that he would almost be a bigger star in Japan than Van Dam in some ways, to my mind. I don't know if that would be true or not. That could just be me thinking that because he was such a popular performer in FMW that Japanese fans today would even know who the fuck he is outside of his work in like WWE and ECW, which again they may not even have ever seen ECW. But Van Dam would be good name recognition. I think Rhino, most people would still know who Rhino is, and Sabu I think would also be good name recognition. Maybe not as much as my mind would like me to think, but Van Dam, I think all of them would work. Van Dam being the obvious star here. So I don't know what their work rate these days is. I don't know what their performance level is these days, but it could work really well. But we would need a third man for Los Ingobernables, so I don't know if he's even still active. I haven't looked into it yet, but the name that pops into my head is PJ. Just incredible. If he could get his shit together, if he could pull it off, if he could get his ass to Japan to do this, he would be a perfect addition to Los Ingobernables. Because I know a lot of people don't like him, they, you know, especially if they never saw him do anything except for in WWE. But he's actually a really good heel. He sells really well, or at least he used to when in his ECW days. I have no idea what his work rate is anymore. He could be a complete wash as far as I know, but he was just someone that popped into my head. So we could get him someone from Mexico, maybe one of the original members of Los Ingobernables. We could look to Europe, somebody else. It doesn't have to be him. It's just he was a name that popped in there because he would be another recognizable name from the ECW days that would play off of bringing the House of Hardcore guys in. So if he's around, if he could pull it off, if he would do the work and could do the work, he would be a good addition to Los Ingobernables. So you could have Naito, Bushi, and whoever the third man is feuding with Van Dam, Rhino, and Sabu. And you would just have them, you know, over the entire course of the tournament and before the tournament and probably going on a ways afterwards, you would just have them feuding with him. You know, in each other. And Naito particularly, each one would get a title shot. So that keeps Naito occupied through the tournament with names that people will recognize here in the States and elsewhere. So that gives us main events and spectacle matches, or not spectacle, but exhibition additional matches all the way through the tournament that people would be interested in seeing because they know these names. And it would give them time to become accustomed and interested in the rest of the roster from New Japan, which is essential. So you have the entire story of the tournament playing out, and you have these names that you bring in to just help the audiences, the American audiences, and from elsewhere, you know, they know who these people are. I'm going to see what they're doing here. You know, pretty much everybody likes Van Dam. You know, maybe not everybody likes him equally. Maybe some people don't like him, but, you know, he's one of those rare wrestlers that most people enjoy watching his matches. And definitely recognizable. So, I mean, he would be probably the one I'd be building towards the big blow-off at the end. You know, and then you could keep it going past that, because you could have... You know, Rhino could have good matches against like Hanma and Goto, looking right here. Elgin, Ishii. How about my other one? He might be able to have a good match with Okada, maybe Tanahashi. Makabe, very similar. They'd have a hell of a match. So Rhino could have good matches. Sabu could have good matches. Van Dam could have good matches all the way through the roster here, as long as they were able to keep going. You know, even if this was only for a few months, that they were able to be regular performers, assuming NJPW could, you know, if a price tag could be worked out here. But one would hope it would be possible to work something out with them. And Dreamer's been working with WWE, so I don't think we could, we just realistically, I know this is fantasy booking, but I don't think it'd be possible to get him. If it'd be possible to get him, it would be interesting to see, you know, you'd never put him up in Los Ingobernables as their third man, so maybe have Dreamer, Sabu, and Van Dam and Rhino join Los Ingobernables if Dreamer could be involved in it, so that would be an interesting dynamic. But again, really that whole thing, just that the heavyweight titles scene would just be about name recognition to bring in that audience that doesn't know NJPW but does know these other guys, and then they can get to know NJPW through the course of the tournament. So let's get it from that into the tournament, and I'll explain my blocks here and where I want to go with them. You know, I don't want to, I'm not going to do round by round. That would be tedious. But just the overall thing that I would want to go for here. So one of the other things I would do is bring in a few outside names. I would bring in, I know Tanaka is still around and still kicking and doing matches. I'd do my damnedest to get him in there, because again, he's a name that people would recognize from the ECW DVDs and the One Night Stand pay-per-view. They would recognize him, and as long as he could still go, he would be able to have some good matches. I would possibly even try to get maybe Keiji Muto as the Great Muta, if he's still... I think he's still working off and on. So if he could come in and do some work... I don't know if I'd want him for the entire tournament. I don't know what kind of condition he's in. I don't know how his work rate is doing these days. But if he could do the tournament, yeah, I'd put him in a heartbeat. Again, because of the name recognition. That's the whole thing we really need to worry about here, is that since the goal of this fantasy booking is to crack the American market, we need names in the tournament as well that people will recognize. Which is why I would also be bargaining hard with, we've already got Elgin, who, at least for Ring of Honor fans, they know who he is, but then of course they're accustomed to a degree with NJPW guys as well. So, I mean, like, Tanaka would be a Japanese wrestler that people would recognize. Uh, like I said, Keiji Muto would be another one. I would like to get the Briscoe brothers in there, one in each block. And, possibly just try and get a few other names. WWE just released like 8 wrestlers, I think it was. I didn't look at the name list, but there's probably a few in there. If you could get, well, they wouldn't be able to do it because they've just been released. I think the contracts dictate they can't work for another promotion for a certain length of time after they've been released or something. I don't know about that. But there are other wrestlers out there that I imagine could work the tournament. Try and make a deal with TNA, such as it still exists, and say, you know what, let us use some of your talent, and we'll see about, trying to help you rebuild your bullshit. So, there's some possibilities there. I don't know about that. I think with, like, Tanaka, and like I said, if we could get Muto involved, he would be a name people would recognize. If, like, I don't know, Taka Michinoku, if we could get him involved, his name is one that people would recognize. I don't know if Ultimo Dragon is still around and working. Like, Tajiri, I don't know if he's still around and working, but if we could get some of those names in here, maybe pull out some of the ringers here, like the Briscoe brothers, I'd love to see him in it, but I don't know if, if we could replace him with someone with a better name recognition, it would be worth it. Like some of the vets, like Tenzan. Nothing against him, but he's slow. If we could put a name in there that would be able to do the work, at least up to his level. If they could not work at least to his level, then I wouldn't want to do it. Because he's still a damn good worker. He might not have the speed that other guys do, but he's consistent, he's reliable. I don't care what name recognition somebody has. If they're not going to be reliable over the course of the tournament, then I can't use them. Yoshitatsu, I want him in the tournament. We need to help, we need to keep building him up. But, there's a few names in here, like Tenzan and Kojima. Tenkozy, you could put them in a feud against another tag team. I mean, Tamatanga and Tangaroa are going to be in the tournament, but that doesn't mean that you couldn't have, some sort of a tag team feud going on. I wouldn't take the belts off of them, though, but you could have a couple of, bring in an outside tag team, maybe, and have them feud with the vets, if it was possible to put in some more recognizable names that could replace them. So let's assume, for the sake of this, that this is what we've got to work with. None of those other guys are able to work on it. We can get Tanaka, but none of the others are available. They're not working anymore. They don't want to do the tournament. They don't think they can handle the schedule. They don't like the money, whatever. This is what we've got to work with. So how are we going to use these names to really showcase what NJPW is all about, what it can do? Now, of course, we'd have to bring somebody else in to help them with some of their out-of-the-ring storyline stuff. I know that would annoy NJPW fans. It would annoy me personally, because that's one of the reasons I like NJPW is they don't have a lot of soap opera bullshit. But that's what American audiences are used to. So I don't want to go full whole hog WWE garbage soap opera pro wrestling, but just some more layers, another layer or two to what they do in NJPW. Just enough. Still keep it all the way rooted in a competitive fight league, which is what they do. Keep it rooted in that, but add some extra nuances in there. That would be very tricky. I don't know who I would trust to do that. Jim Cornette would be the obvious name that I would possibly trust to do it. But I don't know, we would have to see if the American audiences would respond just fine to the way that they do the storylines, the feuds that do develop in NJPW, if they would be cool with it as is, or if that, an extra layer or two would be required to maintain an American following that could be built upon. Beyond what it already has, obviously, personally, and everybody else, there's already American fans. But, if you really, since we're trying to really crack open the American market, and then Mexico and Europe, and, push out, expand, and really take on WWE, then the extra storylines and soap opera stuff that, even though I don't have, I don't really care about it, and other people, it's not their favorite thing, it does have its place when it's done well. So, that's a bit of a, I don't know about that, but if it comes down to it and it's just necessary, then it's necessary. Sometimes you have to do things you don't really want to do in order to go to the next level. So my goal here for the tournament, of course, is to showcase, as I said, showcase the best that NJPW has, and do a few other things. We want to rebuild Yoshitatsu, although he needs to tone down the Triple H bullshit, since right now that's all he's actually doing is just doing a Triple H impersonation. He needs to cut that shit out. It's just way too fucking obvious. Way too obvious. Like, way, 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 way too obvious with him. I mean, Okada does The Rock a lot. Some of his stuff is based off The Rock, and Tanahashi is kind of a cross between Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. I guess Naito, in kind of a way, is doing his own take on Austin. Stone Cold, a little bit here and there. So, and I don't have a problem with that, because it's just little homages and little touches and things, but Yoshitatsu is just straight up copying Triple H, and that shit needs to stop. So I would want to work with him on doing something better than that. A few other guys here. Hanma, no problem. I think he would, once American audiences understood his, his gimmick, he would do fine. Omega, no problems. Shibata, no problem. Evil needs tweaking. He needs to lose the plastic scythe and some of the extra bullshit. Like the stroking the beard thing constantly, that's just... it's a little too cartoony. And he needs to... I think the best way to go with him is to enjoy himself. He's a little bit too much like Ishii and Shibata at this point. He needs to be the one who enjoys kicking ass and getting his ass kicked. You want to call him evil, then he has to actually be kind of evil in the ring. Just the pomp and circumstance stuff is too over the top, and they're trying to do The Undertaker, and it just doesn't work with him. He needs to be the one who gets off on the suffering. That's how I would go with him. Elgin, no problems. I don't think. I mean, I think he'd do fine. Tanaka would just be a one-off, so no worries there. Tangaroa, I haven't seen him enough yet. He's coming along. I think he'd be fine. Ishii, I think he'd be fine. Briscoes, they wouldn't have any problem getting the American audiences interested. Tenzan, I think he'd do fine. I'm not going to be the one to tell him that he needs to change anything. He doesn't need to. Fale, I'm not sure about him. I mean, just doing the stoic bouncer bodyguard shtick is a little bit off. I kind of like it when he gets pissed off at like a Toriano. I mean, frustrated, getting pissed off. When he starts showing some personality, that's when I think when he's at his best. So I would want him to do more stuff like that. Nagata, no problem. Sonata, again, like Evil, Sonata, I'm just not sure what he needs. I don't want to do the same thing with Evil and Sonata. So, and he goes for that reverse guillotine way too often. I'm not sure how I would tweak him, and just he needs something extra. I'm just not sure what. Mark Briscoe again doesn't need any help. Yoshihashi, he needs some tweaking as well. I don't know. He needs a little bit more impact in the ring. He needs some more in-ring persona and personality with his moves and stuff. He needs some more out-of-the-ring personality. He needs to work on his facial expressions more. He just needs to develop, I think. I'm just not sure where he's going with the cane and the whole thing. I'm not sure what the point of all that is. He just needs some fine-tuning, I think. And putting him in the tournament, my reasoning for that is to give him some time to do that, because we haven't really seen him much outside of tag teaming. So putting him in the tournament so he actually has to go through the full rounds of singles competition will give him some time to develop a singles competitor sort of personality. That'll help him a lot, I think. Tamatanga, just fine. Takahashi, again, I'm not sure about him. He needs to have women coming out with him every single show, I think. Even if it's just like a fan or two out of the audience. It's like, here's 100 yen. I don't know what 100 yen is, like $1 maybe. Here's 10 yen, here's the price of your ticket. Here's a free ticket, basically. Just, go, dance around and look sexy and I don't know about if he's supposed to be like a pimp or something. I think I wouldn't do that. The Val Venus, the porn star pimp thing. I just want to do him more as I think, going more of the direction for him as a playboy. A girl in every town, and, every audience, or every show he's got some really hot little thing out of the audience on his shoulder that's just delighted to be there, kind of play up that stuff. He also needs a little bit more work in the ring. He's okay. He just, I think if he had a girl in every single show to play off of, he would, that would give him that little extra kick that he needs. Kojima, just fine. Okada, just fine. Toriano, definitely. Makabe, Tanahashi, fine. No additions there. Goto is the only other one I think needs a little bit of tweaking, a little bit work. And for him, I really liked what he did when he went up against Okada. He came out with the paint all over him and the kanji on him, which reminiscent of Jinsei Shinzaki, which I think is kind of his, who he's kind of patterned himself after a little bit. It's just, I like Goto, it's just he's lacking something. I'm not sure what it is, though, because his in-ring work is impeccable. I have no complaints about his ring work. It's just that it doesn't have, it's kind of like Takahashi. I said, he needs a little kick. Or, even Yoshihashi, he needs something. Yoshihashi isn't up to Goto's level, of course, but with Goto, I think it's more that he just needs a little something. And I'm not 100% sure what it would be. I like the painted body, the kanji, kind of the spiritual warrior sort of element going into it. In ring, I don't know. It just, he needs some extra little touches. You know, like one of my favorites is William Regal. For the little things. It's always the little things, I think, that really express and are expressive for a pro wrestler. It's like William Regal just getting into the ring, you know, wiping his boots on the apron before he gets into the ring. It's just those little things that make you remember someone and stand out to you in the ring. And of course, Regal's facial expressions. Goto has great facial expressions. That's not a problem. It's just, I think he just needs something. Just something to really set him apart, and that's him. You know? It's like Makabe, you know, flips everyone off and a fuck you to everybody in the ring when he's fighting people. It's just those little things. Hanma with a headbutt, and you know, the shit-eating grin on his face whenever he hits it, and you know, I mean, he's the consummate underdog. Shibata, he's in there to kick your ass. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's what he's in the ring to do. He doesn't need any frills or fanciness. He's there to kick your ass. Ishii is just this little bundle of little monster that just, or well, not little. Well, he's, you know, he's like Taz. I'm not sure if that's who he's patterned himself after at all, but it's just similar to Taz. He's there. He's gonna beat the fuck out of you. And he's kind of a short guy, and just a brick shit house built up like one, and it's just gonna pound your fucking head in. And he doesn't stay down. I mean, he's just a tough son of a bitch. You know, it's like everybody else, they have something about him. But Goto, he needs that little extra oomph, I think. So those are some of the things that I would work on during the course of the tournament. I'm sorry that this is kind of droning, and I'm not really, there's not much to look at, but you know, this is all about what if, the fantasy booking, and hopefully you're curious enough about where I'm going with all this to keep with me till now. And for those of you who haven't, fuck all of you. Not that you'll know about it, but nobody has any patience anymore. And for everyone else that's stuck around this long, thank you very much, and let's get on with it. Get down to the meat and potatoes, finally. The actual tournament. So, I want to kick off with some good matches, but not major matches. I want some stuff that's going to show people what NJPW can do, something that's going to grab their attention, but also isn't going to shoot the load too early. A little bit vulgar porn metaphor there. But we don't want to, you know, we don't want the money shot coming too early here. So that's why the last round, we're actually going to go back and have, well, the last couple of rounds. But we're going to be focusing on some of the potential future feuds and new feuds and renewing feuds through this. Actually, I'm not sure that these are in the order that I would want them in. Where was Elgin? And I think it might be round 4 is the one that I would actually have as my last round. Nope. Where is it? Maybe this one did not give me the kind of a layout that I was kind of wanting. Well, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because, you know, the cool thing about a G1 tournament is everyone fights everyone else. Since it's round robin style, you get all kinds of possible new feuds, possible renewal of feuds, if people seem to still be interested in a feud that's supposed to be over. So, I mean, let's just kind of focus on some of the different matchups, the reason why I put the guys in the blocks that I did. So here you've got Goto, Hanma, Kenny Omega, Shibata, Evil, Elgin, Tangaroa, Tanaka, Ishii, Jay Briscoe, Yoshitatsu, and Tenzan. Okay, feuds, existing feuds that could be kicked off here are renewed or revisited. Elgin and Omega, recent. Yoshitatsu and Omega is a potential future feud. You've got Hanma and Ishii. A lot can be done with that. Goto and Evil. Hanma and Tangaroa, of course. And then, you know, potential future feuds. You got Tenzan and Tangaroa, Jay Briscoe, Tangaroa. Let's see. Evil and Tangaroa is an interesting possibility because then you're getting Bullet Club going up against Los Ingobernables, which they haven't really done yet. So that could have some interesting results. Same with like Kenny Omega and Evil. You have some interesting matchups that'll happen, like friends that, you know, at least they're supposed to be friends anymore. Shibata and Goto. And, you know, there's all sorts of different combinations here that'd be very interesting, both for NJPW fans and with the, you know, the American or the English-speaking announce team commenting on history and everything, and, you know, the different tag team potentials in there for like the Briscoes, Hanma, and well, you got Elgin, you got Evil, Tenzan, you know, lots, you know, going up against Tangaroa, Roa, who is going to be the current tag team champ, one of them. So there's all kinds of possibilities in there. You know, Goto and Omega, that could be a hot feud for, because I think they need to keep the title on Omega. They need to leave that on him. He needs to be able to beat Tanahashi. Same reason as Naito needs to keep it. At this point, they've lost some major stars. They need to build up new guys, and in order to do that, keep the title on him for right now. Naito, Omega, I think that's important. So, you know, like Evil and Omega, a possible Bullet Club and Los Ingobernables face off, that could be very interesting. You know, Ishii and Omega might be interesting. Elgin, you know, everybody, you know, matches, just matches, not even potential feuds that people would like to see. People would, you know, Hanma and Elgin would be good, Ishii and Elgin would be good, Tanaka and any of those guys would be good, Goto and any of them will be good, Tenzan and Tanaka, a couple of old, you know, veterans, the older guys, that could be an interesting matchup. You know, I'm sure, because I think Tanaka had spent some time in NJPW, so I'm sure they've faced off in the past, so whatever their past dealings with each other are, I don't know. I'm sure there's some. That's something that can be revisited, potentially. There's just a huge number of things you could do with this. You know, the things I've learned from watching the guest booker series of videos from KFAB commentaries is always plan down the line. With this block right here alone, you would have months, if not a year or more, of potential feuds and things that you could visit. Same with well, not so much with this block, but you still have a lot of potential. Fale, Nagata, Mark Briscoe, Sanada, Yoshihashi, Tamatanga, Kojima, Takahashi, Okada, Toriano, Tanahashi, Makabe. So, of course, I mean, obviously you're going to have Okada and Tanahashi in there having a match. That's going to be money right there. Toriano and Tanahashi, there's history there. That would be fun for people. Of course, you've got Makabe and Tamatanga. You know, kind of something that's more recent. You also, again, with the whole tag team thing, you have Kojima and Tamatanga. You've got, let's see, Mark Briscoe and Tamatanga. Um, obviously, since Toriano was tagging with the Briscoes, having them go up against each other would be kind of interesting. Is Toriano going to resort to his tricks, or this is one of his buddies? Is he going to play nice? Of course, Toriano and Fale against each other is always interesting. Those two play off of each other very well. That's what I was talking about with Fale. He's at his best when he has somebody like that to play off of, I think. So, I mean, you got Sonata and Okada possibly revisiting that feud. Potential new feuds. Again, not as much potential with this block, but you still have some really interesting stuff. So a lot of interesting possibilities in here, just not quite as many. I kind of loaded up the other block heavy. But, I still think there's a lot that you could do here. Takahashi, again, if we went with more of a playboy image with him, push that, had him bringing out girls on every show, push that aspect, and Yoshihashi, not something similar, but, the cane he has, I mean, those two could have an interesting feud. I think there's something that could kick off there. We just need to figure out what Yoshihashi needs to really be him. Find Yoshihashi, who is Yoshihashi, figure that out. I have a feeling that there could be really something there. We need to figure out the right way to approach it, and we need to figure out what Yoshihashi could use, the little kick that he really needs. Because I think he could develop a lot through the course of the tournament, and really, I think he could really have a lot of potential down the line. It's just he needs, his ring work needs work. And like some of these other guys, I just think he needs something to give him a kick. Something to set him apart. Like I said, with Takahashi, having him come out with a girl on every show and doing the whole Japanese playboy thing, the Bullet Club playboy, whatever, that could be his consistent thing, because he only ever does it on the big shows. Do it every show, and that builds it up. That becomes his part of his character's persona, and that becomes the little kick. He can play off the girl during the matches, and go and when he's getting beat, he can go, oh, they can comfort him, and he can mac for the lady when he's winning, and just the little things. There's all sorts of ways you can play off of that. Yoshihashi needs something too. I'm just not sure what. But I think those two could have an interesting feud against each other that would help build them up. A Sonata, I really don't know what I would do with him at this point. I mean, just the skull thing and the all black outfit, and I mean, is he supposed to be like just intimidating? He's a crippler type of character, the one that's just gonna choke you out. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, with Evil, I would make him sadistic, sadomasochistic, actually. Sonata, I don't know. Yeah, I'm just not sure how I would work him. I mean, he could have some interesting matchups. He could possibly feud down the line with Makabe. That could be interesting. Nagata would be interesting. And again, Sonata going up against Tamatanga, Takahashi, the whole Los Ingobernables against Bullet Club angle, that could be interesting. And Fale. I think you'll probably notice that this one got a little bit loaded up on members of Bullet Club. There's Fale, Tamatanga, Takahashi. I guess there's Omega and Danganronpa over here, so it's not too unbalanced. Yeah, I think this block, it would really be all about building up to Okada Tanahashi, because I think that would be the last match of the tournament, and I think I'd probably have it come down to those two. Yeah, I think so. For that block, for this block, I guess it depends on who I'd want to put up against Naito at Wrestle Kingdom, because I'd want him to keep it at least until then. I don't know if I'd want to go with Tanahashi, because he won the last one and went up against Okada. I don't know if I'd want to go with Okada, because he's already going to get a title shot. Hopefully he's not going to retake the title immediately. I would like to have those two I'd like this block to come down to those two, I think. But I almost want to say that I would want to go with Shibata overall and put him up against Naito, because they had a pretty damn good match. Shibata has lost his title, so he's available at this point. And it would be another way, because he's gotten a lot more popular. He's built up more of a following. But again, it depends on who you would want to go up against him, and if Naito is actually operating more as a face. Because over the course of his feuding with the other guys, we could really push the cool anti-hero, rebel sort of stuff. Calm down the cheating for the sake of cheating. You know, I hate that. You know, like, oh, we're the bad guys, so we've got to cheat and do bad guy stuff. You know, I would want them to be the cool rebel heel, stable, less than straight up heels. They're trying to push him as heels, and I don't think it's working. I think I'd want to push Bullet Club as the heels. Los Ingobernables is what they're supposed to be, the anti-establishment, cool, semi-heels, the anti-hero rebel types that sometimes they'll cheat, sometimes, most of the time, they're just kind of rude and anti-establishment and all that, and just fucking with everyone. So if I keep the title on Naito and he's doing more of the cool rebel thing, I don't know if I'd want to put Shibata up against him, because he's also popular and more of a face. And I don't think there's any benefit to turning him in any way. You know, that's a problem. They don't really do heel-face. You know, I don't think heel-face... Well, I'm going to do a different video on heel-face. In fact, it may go up before this one. But if I haven't... Basically, what I would want to do with heels and face... Well, you know, I'll talk about it more in depth on that other video. It's just... I think the whole heel-face thing is necessary. It's just that it needs to be done differently these days. And the way I would want to do it, Shibata and Naito, there's not a whole lot there. I don't think I'd want to do Omega and Naito, because you'd need to take the title off of Omega first, which isn't necessarily a bad idea. In fact, I think that might actually work. Have Omega win the tournament, which would cement his promotion up to the heavyweight division. But perhaps during the course of that he gets beat by Goto, and they have a match and Omega loses the title to Goto. And you'd want to do it almost immediately, so then you could over the course of the few months leading up to Wrestle Kingdom, you would want to make sure Omega beat pretty much everyone else to keep him looking really strong. Drop the title fast, then rebuild him. And I would have him lose by the skin of his teeth. So that could work if you have Omega doing his kind of, I'm going to Americanize NJPW, bring hardcore wrestling into NJPW, that sort of stuff, and that you'd really have to, I mean, the problem is that Omega is almost at the same kind of cool rebel status as Naito, and there's a risk there, because if you really want a solid conflict between the two, you need a personality conflict. That's what I think is the future for pro wrestling, is personality and personal viewpoint conflicts, not soap opera shit, not old school heel face. So it's possible instead of Omega I might go with Naito. They could have a damn good match. But is Goto really all about tradition and respect? But again, see, that's where you really start. I'm trying to figure out who I would want to win this in the end. Who would be the best person to go up against Naito at Wrestle Kingdom. And there's some danger in not using Okada or Tanahashi, but I think it's very vital. Okada and Tanahashi are established. They're secure. They don't need another main event at Wrestle Kingdom. You put them on the card, people are going to want to watch it to see them on the card. They don't have to have the main event. We need to secure the status of Naito and Kenny Omega. We need to continue building up Elgin and Ishii, and we need, Goto has had some push going on for a while now, but, like, some of these other guys, the ones who are kind of stepping into the vacuum that was left by the loss of the other four, we need to continue pushing them and building them up and working on them, increasing their status and their attraction to the fans, their appeal to the fans. Like I said, that's with like Yoshihashi. My whole goal with having him in the tournament is his role in the tournament would be the guy that loses a lot. It's his very first time. He's not expected to win a whole lot, but the behind the scenes goal is to make him look good in the end and develop him, make him look good when he needs to look good, help him find that oomph to really connect with the fans more, all that good shit. And I want to say Naito and Omega would be perfect for a main event, because then you would, that would do more for those two to really cement them in to their new positions more than anything else possibly could. So having those two go face to face in a ladder match possibly at Wrestle Kingdom, if Omega is going to use that as kind of his new signature match, that could be huge. But the problem is there enough difference between them for a personality conflict to occur? Or, simply put, would there be enough interest in the match for a main event of Wrestle Kingdom? Kenny Omega, Naito, ladder match. And they haven't seen it yet. They have not done. I don't know if those two have faced off against each other ever. I don't know. If they have, it's been long enough that their status and position in the company and where they're working and the level they're working at has changed so much. You might as well say they've never faced each other. I'd have to see the way people responded to it. It's always possible to take the title shot off of Omega if it's just not going to work. But I think, at least for the tournament, we've just passed an hour mark, so thanks for watching this all the way through, for those of you who have, because I'm just about done. And I know there hasn't been much to look at on the screen, but it's really not... The rounds themselves aren't really important. What's important is what is going to go on over the course of the tournament, the story that's being told. So, again, you have all the potential feuds that you can find in the different blocks. A lot of these matchups are going to be things that people will be interested in seeing, especially this block. I mean, it's just fucking loaded to the gills with great matchups. The other one a little bit thinner, but you got a lot of developmental stuff that can go on in here for Yoshihashi, as I said, and Takahashi. Plus some definite good matchups. There's lots of different possibilities in that one too. Just like I've said, keep saying, it's a little thinner, but you could still have some damn good matches there, and a lot of developmental stuff that could come out of it. But yeah, I think I would go with Omega and Naito for Wrestle Kingdom main event, ladder match, possibly a TLC match, or something similar, since that seems to be the direction they're going with Omega, is pushing a little bit more into bringing some of the hardcore American style wrestling in, which is fine. Don't want to push it too often, don't want to do it for every damn match or anything, but if you have one guy, like Omega comes in with, or pushes that as his thing, is the hardcore stuff. If you want to face me in a match, kind of doing the Raven thing almost, although in his own way. I could see that working real well. And I bet him and Naito 35, 40 minute match, Wrestle Kingdom main event, could just tear the fucking house down. And then after that, nobody would ever question if they're at the level of Tanahashi or Okada. They would be legit main eventers after that, which would be vital. Because you cannot have a main event scene of two guys for too long. It gets boring. People get tired of it. So, I mean, Tanahashi... Yeah, going down the line, what would I do? What would be my Wrestle Kingdom? At least the major stuff. I think I'd work towards Tama Tonga and Tongaroa against the Briscoes for Wrestle Kingdom. I'd probably, if Kushida does not face off against Jay Lethal, is that right, in Ring of Honor? Just blanked on his name. If he doesn't face off against him really soon, I would probably wait and put that off until Wrestle Kingdom, or possibly have them face each other and take one of the title. I'd probably put the title on, I don't know if Ospreay's ready for it. I don't know if I'd want to put it on, put the title on Taguchi. Could possibly go with Tiger Mask or Jushin Liger, because Kushida and Liger just had a pretty damn good match. It wasn't great, but it was workable. I don't know about that. The junior heavyweight division, not sure how I would work that into Wrestle Kingdom right offhand, because it is a little thin at the moment, unfortunately. But, see what happens there. So, Omega Naito, ladder match or TLC or something, main event. I'd probably put the tag team Briscoes against the Tongas in there. Maybe I don't know. So you don't want to have all the title matches back to back to back. You need some space. But you could do some interesting stuff there. The position, the order of the matches isn't a huge deal. I don't really care to have the title, the six-man on Omega and the Young Bucks right now again. So I think I'd probably put those titles back on Elgin, Tanahashi, and Yoshitatsu, and then I'd probably have them feud with other members of Los Ingobernables. You know, break off the Chaos versus Los Ingobernables and switch it up, because it's basically been those three against Bullet Club and then Chaos against Los Ingobernables. So I think I'd switch those. Chaos against Bullet Club, and well, I mean, with Omega going up against Naito, you'd have Los Ingobernables against Bullet Club. So possibly have Elgin, Tanahashi, and Yoshitatsu kind of joined forces with Hanma and Makabe, kind of the Bullet Club Hunters and Great Bash Heel joining forces, so you could do a lot of shit with that. So maybe Hanma, Makabe, and Tanahashi with the belts, and put them up against Takahashi, see, I don't know about the Young Bucks. The junior tag team division might go with Red Dragon against Ricochet and Seidel, which would free up Roppongi. So you could have Takahashi. No, that's Chaos. Well, you could do Chaos against Great Bash Heel, so there's a lot of history there as I understand it. So you could do Yoshihashi and Roppongi going up against Makabe, Hanma, and Tanahashi. That might be an interesting combination for the six-man tag. That kind of leaves Elgin and Yoshitatsu hanging in the breeze. I mean, that's the problem. You're always going to have way more matches that you need to fill up than you have titles to put on a card. I don't know if I'd want to put Goto and Evil back up against each other. I almost want to say that I'd want to, again, switch focus and perhaps Takahashi. We went with Yoshihashi and Roppongi for the six-man, so let's go Takahashi against Goto. Continue trying to build up Takahashi so he's a bit more of a presence. And go with, like, Evil versus Elgin. Now Yoshitatsu is anti-Bullet Club, so we would want to continue having him feud with Bullet Club members. I believe the Bullet Club just added in a new guy, Adam Cole. So if you had those two kick off a feud, that would give you something to do with Tatsu. You could have Shibata and Ishii and Nagata possibly have maybe NJPW's first three-man for the never open weight title, possibly. Then you could have, then fill out the rest of it with some tag team matches. And I think that would be a pretty damn good card. Yeah, I think for the junior heavyweight tag titles, I'd probably go ahead and do Red Dragon against the current champs. maybe go ahead and stick the Young Bucks in, and possibly another team, and do a four corner tag team match for the title. I don't know about that. Maybe just do the 3 teams. It's just, I don't care for the Young Bucks. So fantasy booking and all, it's just a temptation to leave them off the card, because I think Red Dragon and Ricochet and Seidel would have a hell of a match without needing them involved. So I'd probably just do that and just put the Young Bucks in there to run support for Omega and get involved in that match. And then, of course, the other members of Nobles and Gobernables are going to get involved there. Okada is the only ringer at the moment, the only one I have in no match at all. And you almost want him to be in a title match, but he doesn't need to be in a title match. He just needs something that people would definitely respond to. You don't really want to put him up against Sonata again, necessarily. Let me look at some names here. I've already got most of these guys taken up on what they would be doing. I don't know what I would do with Okada. He's the only one left. Other than maybe Fale, and I don't know about putting them together in a feud. I don't think that would be much of a draw. Could be. I suppose you could inject him into the never open weight title scene for a while. Because if there's any one thing that Okada kind of lacks, it's kind of that hard-hitting, tough guy thing that some of the other ones have going for him. The one tweak that Okada really needs is he needs a second finisher. The Rainmaker looks great on smaller guys, but anybody that's very large, it looks weak as hell. He needs something to use on bigger opponents. So maybe that would be a good thing to do. Put him in a feud with Fale, even if it's not a big draw, so he could develop and introduce his new finisher. You know, it's just, I can kind of visualize it in my head. Okada tries to do the Rainmaker on Fale, and Fale just does not even budge. It's just, dude is just too fucking big. Or he goes down, I don't know. Because so far Tanahashi is the only person to ever kick out of the move. And I don't want to make it look weaker. It's just that it does look weak against bigger people. It's just that it does not have the same kind of impact at all. And I don't know, Fale could use a boost. I mean, if you put him in a match against Okada and he kicks out of the Rainmaker, that would make him look really strong. You could go places with that, and then let Okada win, or have Okada win, but have him debut a new finisher that he would be using on bigger guys that the Rainmaker just doesn't have the same kind of impact on. Like, you know, the Fale and, well, so the two of the bigger guys left, so, but still, it just doesn't look as strong against some of the bigger dudes. So I don't know. That would be a bit of a toughie with Okada. That's the only criticism I have of Okada, is that sometimes the Rainmaker just does not have impact, like Elgin. He uses it on Elgin, it doesn't have the same kind of impact. The ones who just cannot really do that, like the folding up and flipping and the thing, you know, they can't sell it to where it looks really devastating. Ishii doesn't really sell it that, or isn't able to sell it that great. I don't know. I'm just burning time here trying to think of what I would do with Okada. Like I said, I suppose that would be one way to go. Would be Okada doing a feud with Fale, or possibly just sticking him back against Sonata. I don't know if I'd want to do that. But one of those two things, possibly to get him to debut a new move to use against bigger guys, the ones that can't sell the Rainmaker as well. I'm not sure about that, but there you go. That pretty much covers everything. It's took longer to get through all that than I was expecting, but oh well. So for everyone who stuck with me through all this, let me know what you think. This is just fantasy booking. If you don't agree about things like the Rainmaker and stuff, it's just, to me, it just kind of looks weak against some of the bigger dudes. If you think it looks fine, okay. No need to get into an argument over it. But, just let me know what you think, or if you think some of the feuds that I kind of talked about going into Wrestle Kingdom could be improved upon, or you have a better combination. Give me your thoughts. Let me know in the comments what you think and what your thoughts are on the whole thing. How you would rearrange things. It's just, again, like I said, Okada and Tanahashi, they don't need another main event to look strong. That's my main reasoning for doing Omega and Naito. Is just that, after losing Nakamura, that's he could do a main event for Wrestle Kingdom, no problem. AJ Styles could have main evented Wrestle Kingdom, no problem. They lost two main eventers by having Naito and Omega do a Wrestle Kingdom main event. You build up to new main eventers that you can rely. You've given them that oomph, the kick that they needed to go over that line. Can they be to holy shit, yeah. Because like I said, I think Naito and Omega, like a TLC or a ladder match or something, I think they can fucking tear the place down. A really solid long match. Yeah, that could be awesome. So again, one last time, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. See you on the next one. Bye, bye.